quick video before the weekend's action this week. There's 3 fights I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about them from a pure prediction standpoint. I'm also going to talk about them from a betting standpoint, as I know a number of people leaving comments or sending me messages are keen to hear my thoughts on some of the odds for the weekend. So let's start with Joseph Parker versus Bergman. Now, I've done an extended video on that fight, where I've broken down my opinions on the opponent and on Joseph Parker. If you want to watch that video, if that would be of interest, I did it a week or 2 ago. But if you just type into the search bar, boxing gossip, Parker, Bergman, it will come up. So please check out that video, be interested to hear your thoughts. To cut a long story short, and I won't go into the full explanation because, as I say, it's contained in that video, I've picked Joseph Parker very, very early in that fight. It's an easy knockout win for him. Seeing the pre-fight build-up, looking at Bergman, looking at his physical conditioning and his size, has only confirmed to me that this is a first-round knockout job. Now, from a gambling perspective, I've had a look at the odds. Joseph Parker is between 1 to 100 on and 1 to 200 on. So in other words, if you put £1 on Joseph Parker to win, depending on which bookmaker you use, if you're lucky you get a penny back, if you're unlucky you get half a penny back. There's not much value here in betting on Joseph Parker. The UK bookmakers don't seem to be offering odds on a first round knockout. If anyone's seen a line for that, leave a comment below. I'd be keen to see what the numbers are looking like, because I really do see this as a 1 round job or a 2 round job. But for me right now, it would have to go down as a no bet opportunity. You know, Parker 1 to 100, I don't have the kind of budget to be taking those odds. Jason Bergman 20 to 1, 16 to 1. Personally, I'd want 66 to 1. I know it's only a 2-horse race, but realistically, the only way Bergman wins this fight is if Joseph Parker gets hit by lightning in the ring, or he breaks his hand on Bergman's face and has to quit, or dislocates his shoulder, or gets hideously cut and gets stopped, something like that. You know, this is boxing. Upsets can happen. I'm not going to say it's Bergman's definitely out of it. What I will say is you won't see any of my money on him at 20 to 1. Moving on from that fight, let's talk Danny Garcia versus Guerrero. Now, again, in a previous video, I've really sort of suggested that I think Danny Garcia wins this fight. You know, Garcia for me is going to be improved, stepping up to 147 pounds. You know, he's a big puncher with excellent timing. Robert Guerrero, never been convinced at him at 147 pounds, and he's, you know, adopted this kind of warrior throwdown style. That's going to go right into Danny Garcia's hands. Danny Garcia's the young lion. Guerrero's timing is out, whereas Garcia's timing is in, and Guerrero is defensively open, and I think he's going to get clipped in this fight. You know, Robert Guerrero, we've seen his form dip and dip and dip. You know, real sort of nip and tuck performances with the likes of Kamagai, Martinez. You know, guys he should be beating handily. He's not the same fighter he once was, Guerrero, and for me, he's coming to the end of the line, and this is a bad matchup for him against Danny Garcia. You know, we've seen Guerrero, he's never been stopped. He's a very, very tough guy. But we've seen his punch resistance starting to dip. We've seen him being knocked down and hurt in fights more and more regularly. Keith Thurman couldn't stop him last year. Floyd Mayweather couldn't stop him. But I see Robert Guerrero literally getting old in front of us. And I think Danny Garcia is going to put on a performance. And I think stylistically, this is really going to match up very, very nicely for Danny Garcia. Guerrero, he's there to be hit. He's defensively open. And I just see Garcia hitting him and hurting him. I think we'll see Guerrero's first stoppage loss in this fight. You know, I know a lot of people are interested in the Robert Guerrero line. You can get about 6 or 7 to 1 on Robert Guerrero to win this fight. And certainly if Guerrero was at his peak, that would be a good price, a very good price. But he's not at his peak. He's never been at his peak as a 147-pound fighter. And he's up against an unbeaten guy, stepping into the right weight class for him with all the momentum in the world. And momentum is so key in boxing. You know, I see Robert Guerrero suffering his first stoppage loss in this fight. It's a risky play because clearly Guerrero's gone his whole career without being stopped. He's an experienced operator, and in the past he's been extremely durable. But timing is everything in this sport, and I think the timing is right for Danny Garcia to knock out Robert Guerrero. I've had a look at oddschecker.com. You can get 7-4 on that result. 7-4. So if you put £4 on, you receive £11 back, £7 profit, and your £4 stake returned. I think that's very, very good value. I really do. I like that play for the weekend, actually. I think Danny Garcia knocks out Robert Guerrero. You know, so it is a risky play. Clearly, it wouldn't be the biggest surprise in the world if Robert Guerrero was to last the distance in this fight. He always has lasted the distance in the past, so you couldn't say he'd be absolutely amazed if he'd do it again. But I like the play of Danny Garcia by KO. Another play I like for this weekend is an upset, actually, and that is in the Dominic Breazeale versus Amir Mansour fight. Yeah, Breazeale, USA Olympian, unbeaten as a pro, big guy, 6'6", 6'7", very, very high knockout ratio. He might be 16-0 with 14 knockouts from memory. But for me, this guy hasn't impressed. You know, he didn't impress me in the Olympics, really hasn't impressed me as a pro. You know, his 16 wins have been against mediocre opposition. The 2 times he's fought notable opposition, Nagy Aguilera and Fred Cassie, he's gone the distance. You know, suddenly all these early knockouts have stopped. He went 8 rounds with Aguilera. He went 10 rounds with Fred Cassie. You know, as a side note, Amir Mansour knocked out Fred Cassie when they fought recently. You know, that Fred Cassie versus Breazeale fight was very unconvincing. You know, I think one of the judges scored every round to Breazeale, but that was very unconvincing. I'm not going to say he should have lost that fight, but that was a much closer fight than was made out. And, you know, whilst Fred Cassie is the kind of guy who shouldn't be underrated, he's also no world beater. And I thought Breazeale was close to getting found out that day. I really do. And if you look at his resume so far, Amir Mansour is a massive step up. You know, Mansour is an older guy. He's had a draw recently against Gerald Washington. He had a loss to Steve Cunningham. I think people think Breazeale is catching Mansour at the right time. You know, guy in his 40s starting to take losses. But I'm not so sure, you know. I think Mansour is a real big step up from the likes of Nagy Aguilera and Fred Cassie. And Mansour has game-changing power, you know. The losses on his record, well, the draw to Gerald Washington, that was a debatable draw, you know. He got the best of that fight, in my opinion. The fight with Steve Cunningham probably deserved to win, but it was again, it wasn't exactly a one-sided beatdown. You know, Mansour is a competitive operator. And he's mixing it with a much better class than Breazeale has done. And, you know, Breazeale should win this fight on paper. He's the bigger man, the much taller man, the Olympic amateur background, unbeaten, lots of momentum, high KO ratio. But boxing isn't a sport fought on paper, you know. And in the ring, some of the frailties I'm seeing in Breazeale's game, I think will get found out as he steps up in class. I actually like the upset in this fight. I like Amir Mansour to win the fight. And that's available with numerous bookmakers in the UK at 6-4. In other words, you put £4 down, you get £10 return. You know, £6 profit and your £4 stake back. So, if I was playing this weekend, I would have a look at both of those lines. And I would probably bet them to an even stake. Danny Garcia to knock out Robert Guerrero and Amir Mansour to defeat Dominic Breazeale. You know, if you were to put £10 on each, you would make a profit of £5 if Amir Mansour wins and Garcia doesn't knock out Guerrero. You'd make a profit of £7.50 if Garcia does score the knockdown, but Amir Mansour fails to get the victory over Danny Garcia. Obviously, the big win is if both comes through. If Danny Garcia knocks out Robert Guerrero and if Amir Mansour defeats Dominic Breazeale, where you would see a £32.50 win off your £10 stakes. Now look, these aren't strong opinions. I'm not suggesting you run down to the bookmakers and stake any money on it. people are asking me for my opinions, and that's what I give on this channel. And you know, I think those are two plays that I like the look of. But I'm interested in the discussion. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Who are you predicting to win this weekend? Let me know. We got Parker, Bergman, Garcia, Guerrero, Mansour, Brazil. For me, the upset is going to come from Amir Mansour. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good week of boxing. Let me know your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this video, if you enjoy this kind of content, give me the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. I will certainly do follow-ups on these fights, post-fight videos, etc. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on those, please subscribe. I wouldn't want you to miss out. Many thanks for watching.